Ladies and gentlemen, brethren all, welcome to the Working Tools Masonic podcast. Before we get started, it is important to note that our opinions are our own and by no means reflect the opinions, stances, or views of any Grand Lodge, local lodge, or in this case, any concordant organization such as Job's Daughters International. With that said, I'm one of your hosts, Connor Massey. I'm a Master Mason and Mark Master Mason from Victoria, British Columbia. And with me, of course, is my faithful colleague, worshipful brother, Stephen Chung. I'm going to let him introduce himself, and then we're going to introduce our incredibly special guest hosts for today. Stephen, on to you.
Well, thank you very much, Connor. I appreciate the introduction. It's Steve Chung from Prince Charles Lodge here in Kelowna, British Columbia. I am a past master of my lodge, but to reflect our current podcast today, my DeMolay history, I'm a two-time past master counselor Beaver chapter. I'm a Chevalier. I've got the Cross of Honor. A whole bunch of other little things and certificates and stuff like that. But more importantly, I'm a past chapter dad of Ogopogo chapter here in Kelowna. And that's my history. Yep. The rest I'm sure we'll talk about later. And
I believe we just had our other co-host for the day, Dave Culbreth, up here. Dave, do you want to introduce yourself if you're here yet? I guess that's a no. So in that case, I am super excited and privileged to introduce our two guest hosts for the day. These are two amazing young ladies and leaders in our Masonic youth organizations. I have, of course, the Miss International Job's Daughters and the Supreme Bethel Honoured Queen, who I'm going to allow to introduce themselves. So we'll start with you, Casey.
All right. My name is Casey. I'm 19. I'm from Ohio, and I'm a member of Bethel 69 in Gahanna, Ohio. I've been a member of Job's Daughters since February 2011, and within my own state, I have been Honored Queen numerous times. I've served the state as Ohio Miss Congeniality in 2015, 2016, and Ohio Miss Job's Daughter in 2017, 2018, and I promoted growth and communication among Bethels in Ohio. And this year I have the privilege of doing this on an international scale as Supreme Bethel Honoured Queen.
Fantastic. And what about you, Kaylee?
My name is Kaylee Pearson, and I'm the Miss International Job's Daughter 2018-2019. I've been a member of Job's Daughters since 2011, and I originally got started because my mom was a Job's Daughter when she was younger. So I was initiated, and I've held various positions on the local and state levels and now on the international level, serving the rest of my year as Miss International Job's Daughter.
Fantastic. And what about David? Are you ready to introduce yourself? I see your shoulder. Well, we'll get to him eventually. So today we're going to be discussing the Job's Daughters International, which is a youth group for young ladies between 10 and 20. So our guests, as they've said, are on the international level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the floor to them and have them explain what Job's Daughters is and what it means to them to start off with. So we'll start with Kaylee this time.
All right. Well, Job's Daughters is a girls' youth group that promotes public speaking skills and teaches leadership skills and things like that, just to get girls prepared for their future endeavors in life. And me with Job's Daughters, it's really helped me become a more confident person and help me realize that I can do things that I set my mind to.
Fantastic. Casey?
Well, so in Job's Daughters, as Kaylee has said, promotes public speaking and leadership skills. For me, Job's Daughters has helped me realize what I want to do with the rest of my life. We have a philanthropic project called the Hearing Improvement Kids Endowment Fund, and it provides hearing devices, FM devices, cochlear implants to children that have hearing loss or were born with hearing issues. And because of that, I want to become an American Sign Language interpreter. So Job's Daughters not only has helped me in my teenage years to have confidence in myself and just kind of get through high school, it's pushing me into the future.
Well, there you go. So, Steve, we'll start with you. Is there anything you want to discuss about Job's Daughters today?
Job's Daughters, awesome organization. It was the reason I joined DeMolay. 14 years old, buddy says to me, "Hey, you want to meet some girls?" Yeah. Met my wife that night. My wife is a past honor queen of Bethel 23 in Vancouver. My first wife. And my daughter, Victoria Chung, is a past honor queen of Bethel 25 here in Kelowna, British Columbia. And it's done awesome things for my daughter, her confidence and her abilities and her strength to speak up for herself in the real world. So much so she's become like an advocate for other people who aren't so confident in themselves to help them along. It's I don't know, all in all, a very good organization for the girls to spend their time in their youth. I don't think they can get a better start in preparing themselves for the real world.
Fantastic. So before we go into what I want to talk about, is there anything that you girls wanted to talk about? Anything that you wanted to come on this podcast and say or get across to our viewers?
Let's go. Kaylee, you go.
Not anything in particular. I just want people to be able to know what we do and to understand what our organization is and what it does for people.
Fantastic. So my youth group history, for those who don't already know, is that I was the Charter Master Counselor of Phoenix Chapter in Victoria, British Columbia, and I served that chapter as its Master Counselor for just shy of 3 terms. Then I went on to becoming the jurisdictional representative, and then finally I was the Provincial Master Counselor of British Columbia and Yukon DeMolay. So in my time there, being the Charter Master Counselor, I had almost no idea about anything to do with anything. Like, I knew what Freemasonry was, but that was it. And I remember going to like my 3rd meeting, and one of the advisors stood up and said, Brother Master Counselor, Bethel 36, I think it was 36, it was either 36 or 2. I think it was 36, of Job's Daughters has invited you to come to their installation. And for the longest time, I referred to it as Joby's Daughters, because, you know, I'm smart like that. And as time went on, I went to the event and I got to know some of the girls, and I realized how fascinating this organization was. And I think it was that year that I went to our grand session. Which brings up a point that I'd like one of you girls to discuss. Can you explain what the difference between a Bethel, Grand Bethel, and Supreme Bethel are?
Okay.
Well, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. So on the Bethel level, you have the 19 officers, there's choir, and they do things on a more local level. They promote usually local charities and kind of stuff like that. When you move up to the grand level, that's the state, or we call it jurisdiction, and they do things to help the Bethels kind of grow and come together. Do you have anything to say on that, Kaylee?
No, not really. Just that the Grand Bethel, it's basically the same. We do the same type of meetings. We have the same ritual to follow during those meetings. It's just on a wider scale.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And then when we get to the international level, it's a little bit different on how the officers are picked and stuff like that. And they only hold one meeting, which is during Supreme Session every year. It's usually the end of August or beginning of August, end of July. And it's kind of, I don't know how to explain this. Kaylee?
There's just a lot more people there that you maybe don't know already, and it's more to bring people into a closer relationship with each other within the Job's Daughters world, and to kind of compare a lot of things that the states do. That's always my favorite part of Supreme Session is seeing and talking to people and seeing how different their states are run, and then to get together at Supreme Session and do just one big meeting. It's really interesting.
Fantastic.
Hey, it looks like David is there. David, are you able to speak with us now? He's messaged saying that he's been having network issues where he's at.
Well, now there's two Davids. Uh-oh. Please stand by for technical issues. Sorry, girls.
Sounds like David can hear us. He's smiling. Go ahead, David. All right.
Can you hear me?
We can.
We can.
Had to resort to cellular data instead of network.
Excellent. All right. Well, adjust your camera so we can see your whole face. Yeah, that's a little better. Yeah. And why don't you give us a little bit of an introduction of yourself, David, and who you are and a little bit of your background so that the listeners can follow along.
I'm David Colbeth. I live in the South Seattle area, Bonnie Lake, Washington. I'm with the Grand Lodge of Washington. As I'm sure Connor said, their views and opinions aren't necessarily my own. I'm a member of King Solomon Lodge number 60 in Auburn, Washington. I've been a Mason a little over 10 years, since 2008. I can always remember how long I've been a Mason. My wife was 8 months pregnant when I had my investigation, and my first degree was dependent on whether my daughter went into labor or not that night. So I passed master of my lodge in 2013, and thought I was going to have a little bit of a break, but went right into deputy service as district deputy for my district number 13. Been on a few Grand Lodge committees and other things. I'm sure we could all talk long and longer about our memberships and activities, but not enough time for that.
Fair enough. So one of our most loyal viewers is a chap named River Peatman. And I just remembered, actually, he just sent me a message to remind me that his mother just became the Grand Guardian of British Columbia and Yukon. Mm-hmm. He's also the outgoing, I think his outgoing installation is coming up, Master Counselor of Fraser Valley Chapter, which is one of the best DeMolay chapters ever.
Next to Beaver.
No, second only to Phoenix chapter there, sir. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that into mind, and maybe the girls could explain what a Grand Guardian or a Guardian, I guess, is.
Well, on the local level, we have Bethel Guardians, and that is a woman who is she kind of oversees what us girls do in the meeting. And then on the state level or the grand level, there's a Grand Guardian, and same thing. She just oversees, makes sure we have the tools we need to get our stuff done. But they really leave it to the girls. The girls really have a big part in running the state or the local Bethel. And so the Guardian or Grand Guardian is just there for guidance.
And then there's a Supreme Guardian too, right?
Yes, and the Supreme Guardian is who we travel with. Ours right now is Pam Henderson from Kansas, and she is the one who, over the year, kind of goes and checks financial records and stuff for all the Bethels under Supreme, and just makes sure that everybody has the tools to do what they need to do.
So how does a woman end up becoming, say, Supreme Guardian? What's the process there to work your way up?
part of the criteria to go towards being Supreme Guardian is being a past Grand Guardian. And so once you become a past Grand Guardian and you attend Supreme, they hold elections, and there's a 4-year kind of progression that the adults go through. They start at Supreme Marshal, go to Supreme Guide, then there's Vice Supreme Guardian, and then they finally become Supreme Guardian. And each of those terms are a year long, and they learn different things on how to kind of make sure the organization is running smoothly and how to implement some of those tools when they get to Supreme Guardian.
Just as a side note there, Casey, I'm not sure if the other hosts, but you're very choppy. Is it just on my end?
I hear it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I'm not quite sure how to fix that.
all the technical difficulties today. It's all right. We're Masonic youth groups today. I believe, and I may be mistaken, but the official slogan of every Masonic youth group is "Fake it till you make it." So you, in order to become a Supreme Guardian, you have to start as a past Grand Guardian, and I assume to become a Grand Guardian, you would need to be a past Guardian first. So how would you become? Let's start at the lowest level. How would you become a Guardian of a Bethel?
Okay. You have to be, I believe, Casey, a majority member of Joe's Daughters, and then you get voted on by the rest of the adults of the Bethel at an annual adult meeting, and they will get recommendations. So all of the girls give recommendations as of who they want to become the guardian and other adult positions that we have at the Bethel level. And then the adults all take those recommendations and vote and get appointed as Bethel Guardian and Bethel Guardian treasurer and secretary.
Fantastic. And then what's the hierarchy for the actual girls, like Honored Queen? We were talking about earlier. How does that work?
So Bethel's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So, sorry. You can go, Kaylee. It's okay. Okay. So on the Bethel level, the Honored Queen is the highest position, and kind of in line to be Honored Queen in most jurisdictions. Senior Princess would be next, then Junior Princess, Guide, and then Marshal, and they move of the time.
Yeah, and the girls vote to see who becomes Marshal, and then they vote again, and it's intended to be a progressive line. So once you get voted up into Marshal, it's expected that every term you get voted up into the next position until you're voted in as Honored Queen.
Okay, and what's it like to be Honored Queen?
I was Honored Queen at a younger age. I was, I think, 13 or 14, but it was hard to get used to. But I think that since I went through the line really prepares you. The line is what we call the 4 other offices before Honored Queen. So you're voted into Marshal, and in my Bethel, we have different projects that every line officer does before she gets to Honored Queen. And I think that really helped prepare me for my duties as Honored Queen.
Fantastic. How about this? What was one thing that you did not expect about being Honored Queen that you had to overcome, a challenge, if you will?
I didn't really have any per se problems or challenges, but it was really hard to kind of take charge, like starting. So for instance, when planning events, our guardian council would ask, okay, what time do you want to say, what does everyone else want to do? Say, this is what I want to do.
Hello? You're still cutting out really, really strong on my end there, Casey.
I don't know what I can do about that.
So I think maybe one of the things that would be really good for listeners of this podcast in particular might be for the girls to explain how the different stations prepare them for being honored queen and the types of duties that they have to do in these positions, which inevitably give them their experience to go up the line.
My favorite position, the one I think that prepared me most for being honored queen, was recorder. That was the first position where I really had a lot of responsibilities and a lot of duties. The recorder is the one who takes all the notes during the meetings, and they go home and type it up and prepare them to be read at the next meeting and get voted on and corrected. So that was a big eye-opener for me, I guess. There's a lot behind the scenes, and everybody has a little bit of work to do to make the full meeting run right.
And, I know that when my daughter was preparing to go in, much like in DeMolay, they had to prepare a term plan. They had to have pretty much everything thought through before their term so that they were properly prepared, and it had to be approved by their guardian council and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. We have a term calendar that we put together and our plans for installation and stuff that we have to bring before the guardian and the other adults too before we actually put those plans in place.
Hey, David, is Job's Daughters active in your area?
Let me unmute myself. Yes, we do have several Bethels in Washington. And as far as youth group, we also have the DeMolay, and we also have Rainbow for Girls. We have at our lodge, we have a Bethel. It's been around since early 30s, I think, long time, and DeMolay chapter as well. Our Rainbow for Girls assembly didn't have the membership, and they went away in the 80s, I think, but all the youth groups were started in the early 20s or late 30s.
So on the topic of just youth groups in general, I think it's really important as a Mason, and I know that the Grand Masters agree with me, at least for BC agree with me on this, that the youth groups are the future of Freemasonry, be it with DeMolay, you've got the future of Blue Lodge or Craft Lodge, but with Job's Daughters, you also have the future of Eastern Star, Daughters of the Nile, the Amaranth, whatever the other female bodies are that we don't have up here in Canada. I saw there was someone in the comments, and I'm just going to find it here and read it, who had said that he would not have been a Mason if it wasn't for Job's Daughters. And let me read it here, because I thought it was quite a good comment. He said, I have been lucky enough to meet and interact with both of those leaders, being you two lovely ladies. Both are awesome. Without Job's Daughters International, I would not be a Mason. My wife is a majority member. She took me to the temple to have me vetted by her Masonic family, which sounds a lot more terrifying than I imagine it probably was. I can just imagine you walking in with your fiance and having like the Tyler there with his big sword. Welcome to the family. After a few months, I petitioned my lodge. Majority members tend to marry a Mason or make one. All our youth groups should be viewed as our future. So I'm not sure about how other people have experienced this, but I definitely think that if a non-Mason ended up marrying a majority member, that he might be so inclined to look into a lodge, having heard about all the fun that the Joby had when she was an active member of the Bethel.
Mm-hmm. And also the parents of Job's daughters, like my dad, he wasn't a Mason, and when I became a Job's daughter, he wanted to help out as our associate Bethel guardian, and so he joined Masonry. And we've had a lot of girls in our Bethel whose parents weren't involved at all in Masonic organizations, but their dads became Masons and their moms joined Eastern Star. So it's been beneficial to all the groups.
Definitely. And one of my best friends in the craft is a guy named Chris Crota. And Chris became a Mason when his daughter, and Chris, if you're listening, I'm really sorry if I pronounce your daughter's name wrong. Kaija, something like that. When Kaija joined Job's daughters, I remember him telling me that he had a discussion with her about him becoming associate guardian, which I'd like to talk about in a second here, what the associate guardian does. But he had this discussion with her, and he then went and petitioned the lodge, became a Mason simply so he could be the associate guardian of this Bethel. And he ended up being associate grand guardian, which is where he met me, and I've plagued his existence since. So what is the associate guardian? What do they do?
The associate guardian is there, and has to be a master Mason to become the associate Bethel guardian, and he's there to I guess be like the male figure, a positive male figure in all these girls' life. He still, just like the Bethel guardian, oversees the daughters and makes sure they have the tools to be successful.
And then is it the same with the Bethel guardian, where there's I know there is, but where there's the associate grand guardian and the associate supreme guardian?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have. Yes.
So, what is your favorite memory of being a Job's daughter?
I'd say my favorite memory was actually my initiation. I was very fortunate to be able to be initiated by our Grand Bethel, and it was a state event, so most everyone in the state of Ohio was there. And right off the bat, it made me feel loved and supported by people from everywhere, because I come from a Bethel that's quite small and still is quite small, and seeing a full floor and full sidelines really just made me feel good, I guess.
Definitely.
I think mine was probably my first Supreme session. It was in Baltimore, Maryland in 2012, so I was 12 years old, and it was, before that I had only seen like my Bethel and Bethels around the state and maybe a Grand Bethel meeting, but this on that scale was so incredible to see and to meet so many girls from around the world that I share this bond with, because we're all in Job's daughters. It was just really eye-opening and amazing to see that.
Fantastic. I told you a little bit about this in the green room, but my favorite memory involving Job's daughters is I have one of my best friends is a past honored queen of Bethel number 2. And I remember talking with her, and she was complaining that the Bethel was needed more members. And she was having a hard time finding new initiates. And I said, "That's fine. I'll shave my beard, put on a wig, a dress, and you can initiate me. I'll change my name to Rebecca." So every now and then, Rebecca, I get referred to as Rebecca because a couple people heard me say that. So yeah. That's pretty fun. And I also remember when I was at Grand Sessions in 2015, when Corrine Alexander was outgoing Grand Guardian and Kelly Hasegawa was incoming Grand Guardian. My best friend, Bailey, or one of my two best friends, Bailey Young, went with me, and we ended up dressing him up like a honored queen. And I think I managed to get my hands on Miss International's cape. So he was running around as a Bethel Honoured Queen, and I was running around as Miss International, and we made so much of a ruckus. It was amazing. I think that's why some of the Grand Guardians still hate me. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Do either of my other co-hosts have any memories about Job's Daughters that they want to share?
Well, I'll go first then. I guess other than the crashing of sessions and things like that from DeMolay days, would be watching my daughter be installed as Honored Queen. That had to be probably the most heartfelt, touching, warming thing, because I watched her go through all of the chairs and not just the 4 chairs to get to the top, and all the hard work that went into it, and just to see the pride in her face, that made it all worthwhile.
Definitely. Right, Worshipful Brother, do you have any memories?
I appreciate the title. In Washington, we're very worshipful, not right. Rights are only if you're in the South, the Grand South.
Well, my
not
apologies.
there yet. No, that's
Worshipful
okay.
Brother, then.
There's several guys here that would like me to have that title, and I'm not right yet.
One day.
Well, maybe. On that same topic, my 2 girls, one's just now 10, 11 next week, and 9, and so I've got quite a ways. I want to let them have their opportunity and grow, and so maybe once they're graduated and off, we'll see. But I was not DeMolay, actually. I was in Police Explorers in my local community and stood out in front of the Masonic temple many times and didn't even know what it was about, and so I don't have DeMolay experiences and youth group experiences like that. But again, we do have a Bethel in our lodge, and as I was coming in, I kind of attached myself to the Bethel and tried to help them as much as I could, and especially as master, I attended all their meetings and events and things as I could. And my girls were still pretty young then. They were just 4, 5, 6 years old, and so they couldn't really be even bees at Bethel or Joby to bees. So they did come to some events, and we live a little bit further away, and the closest temple to us actually doesn't have a Job's Daughters. They have a Rainbow Assembly. And so they're kind of linking up with the Rainbow at this point, but I know a lot of girls do both Rainbow and Job's Daughters, and so who knows, that may happen in the future. But the lodge that I'm a member of, we connected with the DeMolay, and so even though I don't have any boys, I'm a chairman of the DeMolay chapter currently, and I try to help out again as much as I can there. And they do a lot of things with the Bethel and with other Bethels and go to their meetings and stuff, and so it's been fun to watch the guys grow up and also the girls grow up and become young ladies.
Fantastic. Now, I've just looking at the live chat, and one of the questions here is from River Peatman, who I was mentioning earlier is probably the Working Tools podcast's #1 fan. He said, my sister became Miss British Columbia, and I believe that was Diana Peatman.
Diana Peatman, yeah.
Diana Peatman. She ran for Miss International. Is it mandatory to run for Miss International if you're a Miss insert state here? Now, before we get on to answering that question, let's kind of move back a bit. And what is Miss BC or Miss Oregon or Miss? Were you ever Miss Ohio? No. Well, you were, right?
In Ohio, we call it Ohio Miss. Yeah.
So what is Miss?
So as Miss, first of all, how you get to be Miss is there is, at least in Oregon, there's a written test and a ritual recitation part and a spoken interview with a panel of judges. And so and then an on-stage portion of the pageant. But it's a hard process to go through, and it really prepares you for the rest of the year because there's a lot of talking and speeches you do as a Miss. A Miss, the duties are really to be an ambassador and to be the public relations emissary to the other Masonic bodies and to the public in general. And so you're really what people see and who talks to the public about Job's Daughters to bring awareness and to let people know what we're all about.
Fantastic. So then, going back to River's question, is it required that, we'll use BC here because that's what he said and that's what Diana was. Is it required for Miss British Columbia to run for Miss International?
Yes. The states, well, I think a state can choose, but yeah, in most states, it's a requirement that if you're chosen as the Miss, one of your primary duties is to go to Supreme Session and compete in the Miss International pageant and represent your state. So every state can send one person, which is their Miss, and they compete in the Miss International pageant.
Fantastic. And what's involved in the pageant?
Similar to our state's pageant, it's a large written test with just questions about Job's Daughters, how it was founded, what's the history of it, and what we teach. And then there's a ritual recitation part. So there is 5 messengers in Job's Daughters, and they each have initiation parts. And when you go into the ritual recitation portion of the competition at Miss International, they will tell you right then what one of those 5 you're doing. So you don't know in advance. So you have to know all of those recitation parts. And so when you get in there, they'll tell you which part you're doing, and then you have to go like that. And then there's a interview. It's with a panel of judges. And then during the actual pageant night, there's a on-stage question if you make it into the top 10 or top 11 in some cases. But there's a on-stage question about Job's Daughters, or like how you would promote Job's Daughters, or what you would do if you were Miss International.
Fantastic. So you mentioned there was an exam.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you quiz me? I'm going to run for Miss International. What are some of the questions that I would have to know?
Do you know our founder's name?
Ethel Mick.
Yes, Ethel T. Weed Mick. And do you know when she was born? Where?
19 something.
1881. But yes, close.
And she was born in, okay, so Kansas was DeMolay. I knew this. Help me, comments. Come on, make me look smart here. Ethel T. Weed Mick was born in...
Well, it's tricky because our headquarters is not where she was born, because where she founded Job's Daughters was different than where she was born. She was born in Iowa, Atlantic, Iowa.
I knew that.
But our headquarters is in Papillion, Nebraska. Yes. And Job's Daughters was founded in Omaha, Nebraska. So.
Omaha. Yeah, I knew it was Nebraska. Or at least I thought it was Nebraska. Because I'm super smart. So what are some other questions on the exam?
Casey, I'm gonna ask them.
Well, it differs year to year. One of the questions that they asked when I competed for Miss International was to list out who are in the Supreme line. So who's the Marshal, who's Supreme Outer Guard. So you had to know who is kind of going up to be Supreme Guardian or Associate Supreme Guardian.
Hold on just a sec here. I'm certainly not looking this up. Just hold on. Not looking this up. Let's see here. Job's Daughters International. Just going through the old memory banks here. I'm sure this is on here somewhere. Find a best. Is this actually not even on the website? Come on, guys. Hold on. Leadership. It's not on here. I don't know. I tried.
It is. You just have to look hard enough.
I tried.
So
we appreciate the effort.
I'm sure that the majority of Job's Daughters know these kinds of things. But what about those who are not, that might be watching this now or later down the road? Maybe give them an idea of the things that Job's Daughters do. How about you, Kaylee?
Okay.
Sorry, it cut out a little bit. I didn't hear all of it.
Yeah, so our official philanthropic for Job's Daughters is HIKE, like Casey said, the Hearing Improvement Kids Endowment Fund. And that's something that was really important to me and definitely to Casey. And that's something that some girls don't know, that we have an official philanthropic that we're always raising money for and always giving out grants to help children get hearing aids. And so that's something that I think is really important. It's our official philanthropic, and we at the Supreme level also do a lot for that charity.
I'm thinking more like along the lines of a local Bethel level, where some girl is thinking about Job's Daughters and she found out about it or knows a Mason, and what could she expect that they would do for activities and things like that in their local levels?
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
In my Bethel personally, we do a lot of events at the bowling alley. Our lodge is right in front of a bowling alley. So every term we go bowling and it's fun. We do a lot of servings for lodges, a lot of, for inspections. We serve a lot of food and we get free food afterwards, which is really awesome. And we really just like to have fun together and just do what every girl wants to do, whatever their opinion on activities is.
If bowling is involved, I'm out. The gutter and I are really good friends when it comes to bowling. We had, just going back to our previous discussion, we had a question in the comments. How much harder is the Supreme test than the Grand test for a mess?
It really depends. Every state has their own tests, and every state's tests vary by years. So it really varies by year. There's no way to tell how hard it's going to be or any comparisons, because it can be basically on whatever any year.
Fantastic. So the one thing that I really wanted to do with this episode is talk to all of those Master Masons who are listening. You know who you are. You know the secrets. You're thinking, well, what am I going to do with all my free time? I've been the master of my lodge. I've done this. I've done that. I'm thrice Prussian Grand Master of Timbuktu and the Order of the Mystic Potato Skin. Here's an idea. Help out the future of Freemasonry. Help out the girls who are the future of everything. And go and find a local Bethel and help out. Get your CAV and become a council member, and maybe even Grand or Associate Guardian, and then work your way up and become Associate Grand Guardian, and then Associate Supreme Guardian, and hang out with fun people like Kaylee and Casey. But yeah, I've spoken to a lot of Masons in my jurisdiction, and I know that a lot of them don't know much about Job's Daughters.
And you just scared the rest of them off with all the sounding work that involved. You don't have to go up and become Associate Bethel Guardians to help. They need drivers. They need guys with pickup trucks, so when they do their bottle drives, that they got trucks to use. They need people to help them out with the small tasks every day too, not just these big jobs that you
exactly.
Put out.
I was getting there.
And even just to come to a meeting, we have a lot of girls in our Bethels who would love to see more Masons there visiting them during their just normal meetings.
And they know they're Masons because they're wearing their aprons.
Yeah.
So for all those Master Masons who are listening in, or even fellow craft and entered apprentice Masons, once you become a Master Mason, go and help out the Job's Daughters. They're a really fun group, and you get really fantastic pins like this one, which has a bright pink stiletto on it.
Yep.
Cool.
Oh.
I only got a white teddy bear with a purple collar.
So yeah, that was the big thing I wanted to get across. We're nowhere near done yet. It popped into my mind that that was a good time to
Yeah.
to do that bit of advertising. So,
Dave,
what
got
is?
anything?
Oh yeah, Dave.
I was just going to ask that, and I don't mean to change the direction necessarily too much here, but some of the guys we try and promote the youth in our lodge and encourage them to be part of things. But one of the things that some of the guys have said, and I feel kind of weird. I don't have kids or granddaughters. I don't have granddaughters or daughters, and so I feel kind of weird. This old guy in this room of young ladies, and so how could you helped me to give a message to them that says, I've told them they won't feel weird, but what would you say to me or to them to help me with that?
Well, as a Job's daughter, to become a Job's daughter, you have to have a Masonic relationship, whether that be by blood or by sponsorship. So we have a connection to you all. It's like just having a family member there. It wouldn't be weird. It's you guys give us our Masonic heritage, and so we appreciate you for that, and we just want to have you around.
Awesome.
I have another memory that just popped into my mind about my Job's daughter's history, and hopefully the Supreme Guardian isn't listening. When I was Master Counselor, and I'm not going to tell you which Bethel, but when I was Master Counselor of Phoenix Chapter when I was 16, I was invited to attend a fraternal visit or a fraternal night at one of the Bethels. And I'm not exactly sure what had happened, but I ended up sitting through an initiation. And I was given the pledge and everything. But then after the fact, I found out that I probably shouldn't have been there, but it was still a lot of fun. And that's the only time that I've ever sat in a full meeting, even though I wasn't necessarily supposed to. But it was a lot of fun. And if my lodges didn't meet on the same nights as the Bethels, I would totally start going and hanging out more at the local Bethels. Mm-hmm. We just got a question from the commenters. What? Come on, Nick. Use grammar, buddy. What is the Joby to be starting age?
It varies by jurisdiction, and there's not really like a official you have to be this old to start coming to Joby to be things.
I see what he means now. Okay.
Yeah, but usually it's around 7 or 8. But we have Joby DBs in my state who are as young as 5, and we still let them come to our fun events. We don't turn them away because they're not 7 or 8 yet, and they still want to have fun with us. So.
And what are the Joby DBs?
Well, if you're familiar with DeMolay, they have a kind of a squires thing when they're not yet old enough to become DeMolay. It's similar to that, but except we don't have meetings for them to do. Usually we have some ceremonies where when we're in our meetings, we let them come in and give a ceremony about how they're going to be, how they're going to act as a Joby to be. And I think that's so adorable. Everybody loves that. And they get so excited because a lot of times they get to wear a sash that says Joby to be, or a little tiara or something. So that's really exciting for them. And they get to do fun events with us all the time. Like if we go bowling, they can come with us, and they love that.
See, we give our squires swords.
Oh,
it's probably, in hindsight, it's not a very good idea. We have another question here. What is your relationship with DeMolay International? Or I guess just DeMolay in general, because there's a few different bodies of DeMolay that are all friends but separate. So what is Job's daughter's relationship
in
with
Ohio?
DeMolay?
Go ahead.
I'd say that on the international level, we have a really good relationship. In Ohio, in particular, I'd say also we have a very strong connection. We do a lot of activities together and promoting together, and everyone's really just friends, and it's really heartwarming.
Yeah, it varies by state, but in my state and a lot of other states, we're really close with the DeMolay and Rainbow as well. We do all three. We do in Oregon, we do this thing called DJR, which stands for DeMolay, Joby's, and Rainbow. And we all get together one day and have this huge party. And so we're pretty close. I think that's good.
I think that the Job's Daughters relationship with DeMolay has always been so important because it was what taught DeMolay to be chivalric, sorry. And,
Chivalrous.
Yeah. And I think that without the Job's Daughters being there for the DeMolay to interact with, I think we would have had many more challenges getting to those goals.
Fair enough. So what, on an international level, you guys work with our International Master Counselor, Avery Brinkley, who may or may not be co-hosting an episode here later on in a month or two, depending on his schedule. We're working on that one. So what, on an international level, how are you involved with working with Avery and our Grandmaster? Do you ever do events with them?
We actually, when we were a couple months ago, well, in February, when we were at the Conference of Grandmasters, we met up with Avery and got to meet the Grandmaster, and that was really cool. I have met Avery before because our states are really close, so we've gone to events before, but we go, Casey and I will go to DeMolay International in Kansas City.
The 100th anniversary.
Yes, we're
Super
very excited for that. Yeah, and then usually the International Master Counselor or International Congress Secretary will come to the Job's Daughters Supreme session.
So DeMolay is turning 100, and I know that Job's Daughters isn't far off. When does Joby's turn 100?
That will be next year.
Are you excited for that?
Yes, we're very excited.
Fantastic. And
yeah.
I have a question which is probably going to be really a stupid question, but it's a question that some people might be wondering. Who is Job?
He's from the Bible. That's the best answer. I don't know what you want from that.
And so Job's Daughters are based off of the book of Job in the Bible? Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. We have specific reference to the 42nd chapter, 15th verse, which says, "In all the land where no women found," and here are girls to know that during this time period where women really were not given the same rights that opening Job made his daughters equal.
We're having sound issues with Casey's mic.
Yeah. I picked up pieces of that, so she really
with no headset.
Yeah, one of the important things was that we're based off the book of Job, and in special reference to the 42nd chapter of Job and the 15th verse, which says, "In all the land were no women found so fair as the daughters of Job." So we really strive to be the fair and true daughters of Job, how they were, how he went through all these troubles. I don't know if you know the story of Job in the Bible, but the adversary went to God and said, "Job is only faithful to you because you gave him all this cool stuff and all this money and land." And so God takes that all away from him, and to prove that Job was still faithful to God even after all that. And so that teaches us kind of perseverance and faithfulness, steadfastness.
So I got an interesting question that back in my day, as they say, there were 17 chapters and 25 Bethels in the lower mainland of British Columbia. So there was stuff to do, DeMolay or Joby's, 6 nights a week. And, like where you're from, how many Bethels and chapters are there? And do you guys interact as much as that?
Currently,
Go ahead.
sorry. Currently, Ohio has, I believe we're at 16 Bethels right now, and we keep ourselves pretty busy. Although we are kind of dwindling down a bit, we have 82 Bethels, I believe. We are still strong, mighty, and as busy as
I think once again I'm having some issues with you cutting in and out there, Casey.
yeah.
In Oregon, we have, I think, 12 or 13 Bethels right now, and we just actually opened up a prospective members club that is turning into a new Bethel. So that's really exciting for us.
Sounds really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna just we'll keep going here for a bit, but I just want to ask anyone who's watching if you have any questions for these lovely ladies to post them in the comments as we're gonna start winding down here. So if you have any last questions or comments that you want to be addressed, please post them in the live chat. I think it's there. Now, with that said, Dave, do you have any comments or questions that you want to make?
Just a question about growth. If Bethel was looking to increase their numbers, what would you say might be the number one thing that they should do to do that?
That is definitely a question we get a lot. And I mean, no Bethel has the magic touch for that. But one thing we've done that's really helped us is social media. We promote a lot on social media, and that has gotten us a lot of inquiries about Job's Daughters. And Job's Daughters International has actually a thing where every month, on the 9th of the month, we wear something that says Job's Daughters, whether it's a hat or shirt or something like that. And so when we're out and about, people will ask us about it, and we get to tell them what Job's Daughters is and promote Job's Daughters. So, yeah.
Interesting. The 9th, is that a particular day that you just randomly picked, or was it something significant?
It's significant. Our founder, Ethel T. Weedmick, was born on March 9th. So that's the significance to that. And March 9th, we had like a big party, I guess, on social media, and everybody wore their stuff and said happy birthday to Mother Mick. So
Excellent. Is it, you said the 9th of every month?
yes.
That's a great idea. Love that.
So that hat you have, Connor.
How about you, Casey? If you,
I think Kaylee really covered it
this
all.
There we go. Yep.
Am I a Joby now?
Yes.
got to shave the beard. Got to shave the beard.
Don't even.
Okay, here's a can of worms. Here's a can of worms to open. Is the Schnookling song strictly BC, or is it also international?
Probably no just BC, because I have no idea what that is.
Google it.
Okay.
It's about Joby's and DeMolay.
Oh.
So back to the Casey. What would you say if anything else other than what Kaylee mentioned about trying to grow a Bethel?
I think Kaylee really covered it all, especially with the social media aspect. That is kind of our biggest push to membership. Unfortunately, Ohio's having a little bit of issues, as is everywhere, with gaining membership, and we can't quite find what the magic thing to do is to grow our membership. I think the biggest thing is when we do get members, we need to really have to keep them coming. It's our retention that's a really big issue, and making sure that when we do get new members that they are welcomed and we're kind of doing what they want to do. That's kind of our first thing that we think of to do.
So one of the things that we did in DeMolay to keep members coming was we made sure that there was a social function or a social aspect either before, during, or after our meetings, so that they had more reason to come than just to come and do memory work and go through the process of taking care of business.
Do y'all
We do
have your
something-
meetings? Oh, go ahead, Kelly.
Sorry, we do something really similar. We have after our Bethel meetings, a lot of us go on a Taco Bell run and just hang out
Taco
after.
Bell.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Can I come?
Yeah, we used to go to Tops 24 up on Kingsway afterwards, and until or as late as the chaperones would let us hang out.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, are your meetings during the week or do you have weekend meetings?
My Bethel meets on Wednesdays. We meet on the second and fourth Wednesdays of every month, but every Bethel can kind of decide when they want to meet.
Yeah, we meet on the second and fourth Mondays. But yeah, there's a lot of Bethels who meet on like Saturday afternoons, and that works well for them. But we've just found that's what works best for us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, guys, I unfortunately have to leave this awesome conversation because I have an appointment that I have to get to. So I'd like to thank you both for being on the show and making the time. We really appreciate it, our growing little podcast. I think we'll grow much faster now with you guys having been on here. I think that we'd like to, of course, have you guys on again as well anytime. And Brother Connor there will, I'm sure, try to schedule something. But as for now, I have to fly, guys. So enjoy the rest of the podcast, and thanks again.
Thank you.
It was nice
You
meeting
too.
you.
So I think now is a good time for us to start winding down. We've been going for just over an hour now, and there doesn't seem to be any more questions or comments on our live chat. So I'm going to invite you to give us any closing remarks that you have or any final thoughts that you want to share with our viewers.
Well, I just really like to thank you guys for having us on here and allowing us to share the word about Job's Daughters and what we do. It's really great to be able to get that kind of the awareness out there and let people know who we are and what we do. So we appreciate you letting us do that.
Definitely, we
I'm
are
going to
super
agree
grateful.
with Kaylee on that.
Yeah, we're super grateful to have you guys. We're just starting as a podcast, and having you on means an incredible amount to us. So, with that said, Dave, do you have any closing remarks?
Just happy to be here, and hopefully my connection issues will be resolved next time, if you allow me back on.
We definitely will. For those who don't know, Dave is a potentially one of our new regular hosts. As Steve and I were trying to find one or two extra bodies who can help keep the conversations flowing. Now, with that said, thank you all so much for watching. It means so much that you spent some time with us, either live or after the fact. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down in the comments below. Even though the girls won't be here live anymore, I will try to address them. And if there's any questions directly for them, I can send them along and post their responses should they get back to me about it. If you enjoyed the podcast and you want to see more, please subscribe and hit the bell notification so that you know what's going on. And follow us on Facebook. We post a lot there. Also, I am currently working on creating a Discord server. So for people, be it Masons, candidates, seekers, Job's Daughters, that strange conspiracy theorist in the corner, anyone is welcome on there. So once that's live, I'll be posting the link to that server on Facebook, and that will be a place for everyone to have an open, ongoing discussion about all things Masonic. And we are currently working on setting up a Patreon. So if anyone is interested in supporting the podcast there, you can follow us on Patreon. So with that said, from the bottom of our hearts, on behalf of the Working Tools podcast, we really want to thank Kaylee and Casey and all the Job's Daughters for coming and helping and joining us on this episode. And we do hope that you will join us again soon. With that said, thank you very much, and we will see you next time on the Working Tools Masonic podcast.